My name is Josh Galen. I'm part of the Government Affairs Committee, along with Linda Althoff of the Delano Area Chamber of Commerce, Robert Hopwood of the Delano Herald Journal, Tom Screeden of Farmers State Bank of Hamel, Heidi Armbrust of KLN Tuffy Streets, and Daryl McLean of McLean Law Office. I want to thank the candidates for appearing here this evening and for running for public office. We'd like to recognize the late Senator Bruce Anderson for his many years of dedicated public service to the citizens of this district, both in the State House and later the Senate. He participated in these forums several times and was a courteous and thoughtful participant. Whoever is elected to this seat will have a legacy to uphold as a public servant. The format for tonight will include candidate introductions, chamber-prepared questions, an opportunity for questions from audience members, and finally, concluding remarks. A few notes on the format for this evening: no personal attacks will be allowed, and no endorsements will be made by the chamber at the end of the event tonight. We anticipate the event to conclude around 8 o'clock, and the candidates are encouraged to stick around and mingle if the opportunity presents itself. Please remember, this is a forum and not a debate. Each candidate will be provided the opportunity to answer questions asked by the moderator, and only if the moderator or the chamber feels it is appropriate will candidates be allowed to respond to remarks from the other candidate. Candidates will each have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. Audience members are encouraged to participate by preparing questions in writing for the audience portion of tonight's event. We have received several already. Know that some of the questions that were posed by the audience members were basically the same ones we do have in tonight's event, so we're not going to repeat those. So if your question didn't get asked, maybe that it's very similar to one we were already prepared to ask tonight. If you do want to ask a question, please see the index cards are out front on the table, and bring those over to Linda, and we'll get those prepared for the audience question section for tonight. Audience questions must be addressed to both candidates. Tom will be our timer here this evening, and he'll hold up a green sign when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a red sign will indicate that your 2-minute allotted time is up. So we will start with candidate introductions. And by
random draw, the first one to go will be Louis McNutt. So the candidates for the Minnesota State Senate District's 29 seat are Michael Holmstrom Jr. and Louis McNutt. You will each have 2 minutes to share who you are and why you're running to represent the citizens of Minnesota State Senate District number 29. And Louis, we will begin with you with your introduction.
Thank you for that, and thank you for holding this space open for such a forum so we can actually have a nice dialogue and bring community back out. My name, like you said, is Louis McNutt. I've lived in Buffalo for over 10 years with my family. I have 3 boys and my wife Lisa, and we came out here for the environment and the open spaces that we have here and the good community that's safe. Now, over that time, I started working for MnDOT, and through MnDOT, I started getting active in my local. And my local is out of Metro DOT, where I, as a heavy duty mechanic, fix trucks, but represents maintenance workers, clerical, and even the people in St. Paul working with the legislature to try to get the funding to where it needs to go. That expanded to even doing more, not just lobbying to try to make sure MnDOT is making sure frontline workers are getting the tools they need to support what they need, but also for workers' rights across the state. In that, I eventually ran and became Secretary of ASPE Council 5, representing 43,000 workers across the state. In that, I realized a lot of what's happening to Minnesota is the inability for us to achieve what it is we really want, which is a safe home, ability to afford a family, and keep everything safe. Insurance is the biggest thing that seems to be affecting that, and that's why I ran. But the main reason I'm still running and wanting to do this is to bring everybody else's issues. It's why it's paramount that I do that at the doors, is asking those questions. So I hope to hear more here. Thank you.
Michael?
Hello all, my name is Michael Holmstrom. I'm running for Senate District 29 for very simple reasons. I'm a father of 5 children. My wife and I moved to this district because we believed in the public school system out here and have been like thousands of other residents in this district disenfranchised by the opportunities for our children. And that needs to change. I'm also a business owner. I understand the pressures that are coming on our great business leaders in the community and all the employers and the employees. We have a lot of state mandates that are making it very hard to operate business and operate our municipalities, and St. Paul is not hearing those concerns. So we need to take seriously those concerns. Now, I'm also running to fill the seat of my friend Bruce Anderson, who was a great senator and adored by all. And he was adored by many because he was present. He was here to listen to your concerns. He came out to the communities to find out what issues needed to be elevated, and that's the footsteps that I'm trying to run in. I've met with people from across the spectrum. I've met with our sheriff. I've met with leaders like Xcel Energy. I've met with union leaders. I've met with conservative leaders. I've been in almost every city council, meeting new people, almost every township board, and it's really important that whoever wins this seat is going to continue on that legacy of being present to the average voter and to all the stakeholders within the district. So that's really important to me. That's why I'm here tonight, to learn what your issues are and find out what's important to people of Delano. And I hope to meet all of you afterwards and have a longer discussion. Thank you for being here tonight. You're all part of a great system here, and you're participating in our system in a great way. Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on now to the first question. We'll alternate answers for each question, and because Lewis, you went first for introductions, Michael, you'll be first for question number one, and it's very simple. Why are you running for the Senate position?
Wonderful. We'll recap that. So, again, running for very simple reasons. And I'll give you a 15-second overview here. Once again, I'm a father. I want to be able to send my kids to a school that I can trust is going to promote the values of this district. I also want our state to be more friendly to businesses. And once again, we are in Senate District 29. This is a traditionally conservative area. And the people of Senate District 29 want a leader who's going to stand for the values that make Wright County great, and not just hold firm to them, but try to export them to the rest of the state, because Wright County is an exceptional place to live. Our values are exceptional, and the rest of the state would do well to see those values exported out. Thank you.
Lewis?
So the reason I'm running is because I wasn't seeing a person representing what I felt was the concerns of my neighbors, the concerns across the state, not just neighbors here in 29 and in Delano. We were hearing a lot of top-down approaches, regardless of party, regardless of what it is. St. Paul was telling us what we needed to do things right. We were not given the tools or the opportunities to do what was right for us. It was feeling, as a labor person, it felt like we all were just getting a bunch of extra bosses that didn't have exactly our input on what was going on. And we needed to have somebody that was willing to not be strictly a party politician, but a representative for 29 first. And I think that's what was separating us from the politicians, is because they were adhering to party politics instead of good politics. And I wanted to bring that back. I wanted to bring back the community safety so we can talk about good politics instead of party politics and tribal warfare. So I want to bring that back, and I hope I can lead by example by making that safe space and that ability to bring that forward. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And you can, if you're more comfortable, you don't have to stand if you don't want to, so just know that as well, so up to you. Question number two, what specific steps will you take to reduce the negative rhetoric between the two parties, and how will you represent citizens that disagree with your viewpoint? And Lewis, you were first on that question.
Lots of extra energy. I prefer to stand. So the whole thing, I believe, is what I said for one of the reasons. I don't believe that we're having leaders going out there and propping up the people that are doing things good in our communities. We have a lot of finger pointing. We have a lot of what things aren't working. We don't have a lot of making the space for somebody and stepping aside so they can do that. Our government, politicians, I always made the joke, politician always wants to be there for a ribbon cutting, but never there for when it needs to be fixed. And never there when somebody else needs to be recognized. It's all about them, and I'm actively working on trying to figure out what I can do to change the campaigns from being a selfish campaign to a campaign that brings light to the whole community. A little short timetable. I wasn't thinking it was gonna happen this way, nobody was. So all those plans are still gonna happen regardless win, lose, or draw. But I have worked in my local and then into Council 5, representing 43,000 workers across the state. That goes from correction officers to nurses to county workers to maintenance and clerical. They range the gambit from Free Palestine to 2A Strong. And they were able to see a person that unified for me to run this secretary and get me elected on both those sides, and getting us to a common good and an ability to have a dialogue so we can actually do a common good. And I think I would be a good person to do that with Republicans and Democrats alike. Thank you.
Well, it's a really good question, and it's something that we're going to have to do because we have a split legislature here in Minnesota. So I want to start by saying I simply disagree with the idea that Bruce Anderson was a man of selfishness or was a man who went for a top-down approach. Bruce Anderson was one of our greatest. There's a reason he's been here for 30 years representing us, is because he did work with everybody. And again, Bruce, his example is one that I'm going to look to when I'm down there, because the man was loved. I was at his funeral. I watched as the room flooded with legislators who I disagreed with vehemently and who didn't agree with Bruce on anything, but they loved the man because Bruce was a man of faith who understood that we are all created in the image and likeness of God, and that everyone has inherent value. He didn't approach you when he disagreed with you with anger in his heart or with any form of malice. He came to you with love and compassion to understand your position and defend his own. He understood where his district stood on issues, and he did not cave on those. Bruce had one of the most conservative scorecards in all of Minnesota history, which is wonderful representation of Senate District 29. I'm going to continue that conservative legacy, and I'm going to continue the understanding of Bruce's deeply held belief and my deeply held belief that we are all children of God who deserve to be treated as such, and I'm going to treat my Democrat colleagues that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What do you see as the number one issue facing District 29 today?
Just one.
Just one.
Okay, so when I knock on doors, I get out, we've hit almost 5,000 doors, and almost every single door, when we get the opportunity, we ask, what is your most important issue? And I'll be totally candid with you, the number one response I get is Tim Walz needs to go. But that's not an issue, that's an opinion. So we'll go for a total issue here. I'm going to focus on people that are my age. When I knock on doors of parents with young children, which is so many doors in this county, we have a wonderful, flourishing young family life in Wright County. Their number one issue is that they don't trust the schools. And that is serious. And it's not just young people. When I talk to grandmothers and grandfathers, they don't feel comfortable sending their kids or their grandkids to the public schools. And those are very serious concerns. Now, they all have different reasons, right? Some of them are concerned about boys and girls sports, totally fair. We don't want boys in private spaces of girls, that's dangerous. That's an ideology that's twisted and it doesn't align with what human nature really is. There's the issue of curriculum changing. We see the state have top-down curriculum requirements that don't teach the values that exist in our communities. And we've seen failing scores as a result. There's no buy-in from the district, there's no buy-in from the students, and there's no buy-in from the parents to teach these things, and we're not focusing on the right subjects. So we're going to have to, I've been negotiating and talking my way with the Republican senators, trying to find a way, if I'm elected, to get onto a K-12 policy or K-12 committee, and it seems likely that I'll be able to do that. That is very important to me because we need to find a solution to this issue. We can't continue to have failing schools, failing grades, and complain that we need more money for schools that aren't working for the average family. And one more thing, The schools are truly supposed to be independent. We have independent school districts here in Minnesota, and they don't have the ability to be independent. They can't choose their own curriculum within reason. They can't choose their own funding mechanisms and decide where to put their money, and that's really concerning. Thank you.
Lewis?
Can you repeat the question real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you see as the number one issue facing District 29 today?
So, going out and achieving over 6,000 doors, my number one question is always, what is concerns for you? And most people, if it's not the first one, it's the second one, is cost. And it's usually cost of insurance. And they talk about insurance as if it's healthcare. And it's just a bureaucracy that's supposed to pay for our health care when we need it. But it's shortening our ability to even get good health care and limiting where we can go. It's having accountants determine what we're able to do instead of other doctors. And quite frankly, the regulations, whether you like them or not, the subsidies, whether you like them or not, are what we have from the federal government. The state needs to go in and we need to affect change, because they're talking about this and it's going up higher than inflation. So when we're talking about costs, you cannot talk about it without talking about insurance and health. And we're losing our ability to even do that. So I would say the number one issue is healthcare, and the number one issue that's affecting that is the cost of insurance. And if we don't get those right, everything else is going to be unattainable for anybody going forward. And we need to get that straight. Thing I always say is we need to make it so there's nobody else in that room, not an accountant, a bureaucrat, or the government, besides you and your doctor making health choices. And we need to get to that day in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. How would you assist small businesses with the growing burden of state regulations in Minnesota? Some recent examples from sessions include earned sick and safe time, mandatory retirement accounts, and paid leave. And Lewis, you have that question first.
So as a union guy, I actually was one of the people pushing for it. And the reason is to make Minnesota competitive and making it so that it attracts good workers, so good workers can find good employers, and good employers are equally competing with those that wish that it doesn't do it. We need to make an environment that's not just good for the people that can do three or four jobs, but the ones that have a family and are able to give in space to have that family and keep the job. There is too much of this of like just sacrifice, and eventually you make it, when we have an entire generation growing up deciding that it's not worth it to have kids. My younger sister, 18 and a half years old, younger than me, has basically said this is an environment that does not allow her to have any kids. She's working a pretty good job, but there is no real opportunity. Minnesota has bucked that trend by having these protections for families, and I would definitely keep on working to figure out what we can do to make it more competitive so Minnesota can stay a competitive workplace, not just by deregulating everything like Iowa or South Dakota, where they have different problems and it's not working out for them when it comes to family generation, when it comes to income, or when it comes to economics. It's just not working out as well as they think. Thank you.
We hear from my opponent that he wants no more top-down approaches. But then 2 questions later, he informs you that he was one of the people advocating in the room for paid family medical leave and these other programs that are strangling our businesses. This is not how government should exist in America. This is certainly not helping Minnesota businesses. We lose businesses in Senate District 29 to these regulations. We've seen it happen. They go to states that want to work with them. I can't tell you how many doors I've hit who have told me, yeah, I lost my job because my business moved to South Dakota or Wisconsin, and I understand why they did it. This is not the solution for Minnesota. This isn't helping businesses. It's not helping employees. When your job decides to move out of the state, you don't have a job anymore. There's no place to take a 20-week leave from. We don't have the workforce to support it. When you have multiple employees out on a 20 week leave, you have to find temps. But if all the temps are working at all the other businesses who are having this problem, you're not going to have it. The result is going to be clear. We're going to have a reduction in services. Our municipalities are going to be low on employees. Our businesses are going to be low on employees. And when you and I go to the store, we go to our local government, or we go anywhere, we're not going to be able to get the help that we need and the services that we need from those places in a timely order because of these policies. They're wrong-headed. They're bad for Minnesota. They're bad for the Minnesotan economy, and we need to totally pull them back. And for the record, I think the Democrats down in the state capitol recognize that this was kind of a mistake that they had made. I don't think they're going to fight very hard when we try to end these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. How will you balance the competing differences that exist within District 29, such as rural versus suburban and retaining farmland versus growth and development?
This is a great question. We are the fastest growing county. Senate District 9 is home to Wright County and Hennepin and Meeker. Wright County is the fastest growing county in the state. Most of the growth corridor is happening at Otsego, Albertville, and that'll be Senator Lucero's problem. But down here in Delano, we see it in Buffalo, and we see it across the entire district. So growth is coming. There's no way to stop that, and frankly, it's not government's job to stop it, but it is government's job to regulate it. The answer for Wright County is not 45-foot wide lots. That is not what anybody here wants. We want to see growth that supports frankly, the communities that we exist in. When you go through downtown Delano here, you're going to see that the yards are expansive. There's room for families. There's room for children. That's what we want. We don't want row houses in downtown Buffalo. We don't want more very close together townhomes, and that's just not, it's not conducive to the values that we have here. We want to be family friendly. We want to be friendly to growth, and we want to invite new people in. I'm telling you, the new people that I meet in this county, they're great. Now that all being said, when I go to the townships, they're concerned about annexation and how that's going to affect them. They're concerned about how the state funding for roads and infrastructure and all the increased traffic is affecting them. And we have to get them the resources to manage it as well. And we can't force larger cities on them if that's not what the people of the townships are looking for in their land use plans. Thank you.
Could you repeat this question real quick?
Absolutely. How will you balance the competing differences that exist within District 29, such as rural versus suburban and retaining farmland versus growth and development?
Well, paramount is making sure the farmers are actually part of the discussion, and we talk about generational farms and those that are feeling like they don't have, what I've heard is they don't have a family that's able to take up the farm, so they're selling out to whoever's giving the best bid, and that's going to be a developer. So then you're seeing these homes being built up in a community that's a little bit separated from the rest of the town, and it's just popping up because no one was there to take over the farm and to continue it going forward. There is a continuation of incentives to help that, and we also need to meet them where they have programs where they're trying to meet people that are traditionally not from farming communities. They want to be actively a part of farming. And if we lose our identity as farm and being able to produce food and what really accredits to Minnesota, we've been farming forever, we don't need homes in every single farm field. Townhomes are a way of being affordable for young families. The housing market is getting crazy. The size of homes, just if you have a large home, you price out young families. $400,000 house with a quarter-acre lot is just not attainable for even two incomes. It's the competing thing is to make sure cities are supported, but also that individual rural communities have what it is they request, which is going to be helping people meet people where they want to be. And we need to keep those forums like this open so we can have that discussion continuing. Thank you.
Thank you. What specific actions will you take to obtain funding to ensure the educational future of students that attend the Wright Technical Center, which is located in Buffalo and has significant building safety and structural concerns?
So there is grants that are able to go through, and there needs to be a way of making it so it's streamlined, so they're able to get it without having to go through a multiple year process. It is also not just grants, but also meeting other communities and supporting fundraisers that you can. Again, it's another part of what I want to try to do, is make a campaign less selfish and try to reach out to those that need that, so we can have our community help each other out when we need to have that. We need to protect the technical college as best we can. It is near and dear to me that a technical college still exists. It's how I got my job as heavy equipment mechanic. It wasn't Wright Tech, but it was a different technical college. We need to maintain our technicals, because there's a shortage of having people that want to be in the trades get the right door into the trades to then be successful. And we absolutely need to do that. Again, it's grants, and I would actively reach out and do everything I could to do that, especially as a senator, but even before that. Thank you.
One of the benefits of putting in real work on the ground and meeting people and organizations on the campaign field is that you understand what you're asking when you ask that question. This wasn't a question about grants. This wasn't a question about a trade college. This was a question about a cooperative high school program in Wright County that's looking for bonding money. There's a bonding bill that I will sign on to, and I actually had the opportunity this Tuesday to go tour Wright Technical Center with the House Bonding Committee and listen to what their concerns are, walk through, see all their programs. I've spent probably 6 hours in that high school cooperative, learning about what their real needs are, seeing that students are walking through giant pools of water to get to class and having to get rained on, and they're having to cut down welding programs because they can't get staff, and the roof is leaking on us while we're walking through the building, and there's no ability to have safe student entrances. I mean, this is a real serious concern, and it needs to be addressed by the legislature. It is going to be added in the bonding bill. Wonderfully, Senator Anderson did draft that bill. Again, I'll assume that bill day one. That'll be the first thing I do, because it's very important to our communities. And grants are so much harder to get for that district specifically, because it's not part of any one independent school district. They can't levy you. The independent school districts pay into it. There's no other funding mechanism. So that's a real serious concern. And once again, it's not a technical community college. It is a high school cooperative that offers college credits, but other just technical education. And they do wonderful things for our community, and I really look forward to working with them as the senator representing the district. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the last prepared question, and after this, then we'll move on to the audience questions. There have been several high-profile cases of fraud in Minnesota in recent years, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. How will you work on a bipartisan basis to stop fraud, enforce accountability, and protect taxpayers from losses?
This question got me in trouble last night. So, unfortunately, there's not a bipartisan interest in tackling fraud. That's a reality that we have to accept. And as residents of Minnesota who are upset about the fraud, we need to be clear with our legislators. Republicans have done everything they can. They created the Committee for Legislative Oversight in the House Fraud Committee, and they also pushed forward what was a bipartisan bill for an Office of Independent Investigator, and that was agreed upon until it hit the floor. And we saw Elliot Engen standing up there and saying, fraud's a serious problem in Minnesota. And because our governor decided that he didn't want that bill to pass because it would expose the bad job that he's been doing of protecting our funds, all the Democrats decided to vote against it and laugh at Elliot Engen, Representative Elliot Engen, when he posed on the floor that there was a fraud problem in Minnesota. Now we know, because of our great Minnesota attorney for federal attorney, Joe Thompson, we know that there's $2 billion in fraud, minimum. House leaders are telling us that it's likely closer to $6.5 billion. And that's just That's just the easy picking. We haven't dug into real programs. We've just taken the stuff that's like 90% fraud. This is a total failure of leadership from the top down. And last night, I want to make this point. We were asked whether or not we wanted to hold government officials accountable, and we both said yes. The difference was I said yes, let's do it, and my opponent said yes, and I'll quote, but this predates any administration, which is to say, yes, but not my friends, not Tim Walz. I don't want to hold him accountable. And that's a real problem. And I think that we should look past that and have expectations of our candidates and of our leaders. Thank you.
Okay. So to clear up some of that, the reason is to hold current and past administrators accountable. We cannot just angle at political rhetoric and attack those that we see in front of us right now. We need to go back to see what administration, not just administration, but people that saw things and were inadequate in dealing with it. That doesn't mean go back and put everybody in jail, but find out the decisions that were made that enabled these things so we don't have them go forward. Now again, there was a Democrat senator that proposed the office of Inspector General, and that had bipartisan support with 60-7 vote. So I'm still confused on how that is one party versus another when in the Senate they were able to get it started. It was the House that was divided, and we are going to be, if we are going for the seat in the Senate, so we wouldn't be in the House doing that. We'd be in the Senate, and then again, I would go right and do that vote for that was 60-7, and hopefully it would be just 100% all senators, and we show a consolidation on that. Again, we need to start that office so we can get at the bleeding that's happening, so we can build upon it, build upon Minnesota going forward. But you can't do that until we get rid of the choices that were made long ago and now, so we can build forward and stop the bleeding. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have several questions about schools, but they're very varied. So I'm going to try and put these together into kind of a coherent sort of question. We may end up kind of asking a couple of them here in relation to that. So, so one, I guess these two I would say are somewhat opposite of each other. So I'm going to ask, kind of what your opinions are on and which side you would fall on in regards to this. One of them is, what will you do to protect homeschooling rights? And the other, kind of on the opposite side, which is, will you support fully funded public schools and work to make sure we do not have vouchers in Minnesota? So I guess I would ask how you would address those two kind of competing viewpoints. Oops.
So any voucher system I have seen does not have much oversight, and as we just got done talking about fraud in Minnesota, any Minnesota money, any taxpayer money must have government oversight on what the money's for. My whole concern with homeschooling is it's very easy to have fraud, so we have to have a strong, robust system in order to see and make sure standards are met. Now, I would definitely work on all cross subsidies with the mandates, especially with the federal ones. The state needs to come in for our rural schools to be fully funded, so we don't have disparities where, like I had to with my son Wesley, having to compete and be in front of the school board in Buffalo and hearing how my kid is an undue strain on the rest of the school. You're having me and my son have to argue against everybody when all it is a funding thing that we need to make sure everybody has a good future. I would definitely not want that for anybody else, so I'd work towards making sure every rural school has proper support from the state and have proper oversight over all public funds. Thank you.
once again, we hear that a top-down approach is actually the solution, and I disagree. Homeschooling rights are real. There are serious concerns from homeschooling parents, and I want to take a step back here and ask what the purpose of government really is. Is the purpose of government to raise our children? Because I don't believe that, and I don't think the people of Senate District 29 believe that. I don't think the people of America believe that. If I want to homeschool my children, that's what I'm going to do. If the government has a problem with it, I don't care. And I hope that every single parent in Senate District 29 has the exact same opinion. The concept that homeschooling leads to fraud, well, some of the smartest kids I've ever met are homeschoolers, and everyone in this room has had that exact same experience. You might say, well, that one was awkward, but they were smart, and that's very true. And homeschooling cooperatives have gone a long way over the last couple decades to ensure that social skills are being built. I have no question about homeschools. I have a ton of questions about public schools. The test scores, as I have mentioned before, are horrid. Frankly, school choice is a great option because our schools are failing our kids, and the more money we give them, the lower the test scores go. So I don't believe the vouchers are necessarily the right option. I don't like the strings that the government will attach to them. I think tax credits are the options. I trust parents to know what's going on in their kids' education. I trust their educators to know what's going on. I don't trust the state to do any of this correctly, because the more they get involved, the worse it gets. And we have a governor who prided himself on being the teacher's governor, the one that was going to fully fund education, the one who was going to solve all of our problems. And in 8 years of that, we've fallen behind Louisiana and Mississippi. Wow, what a success. Thank you.
That's a lie.
Okay, we're not gonna get an audience participation, thank you. So, remember, we're gonna have a forum, not a debate tonight, thank you. All right. These two are also related, and it has to do with local businesses have often struggled to hire entry-level workers due to lack of affordable housing. What role, if any, does the state have to support development of affordable housing? Michael, you're first.
I stand firmly on this, and I know that my friend Bruce Anderson agreed. When the government gets involved, things get worse. Prices go up, and problems are created. You know what the biggest problem is for entry-level employees right now? Paid family medical leave. They're gonna go to get a job, and the employer's gonna go, nope, I'm not hiring more people, because when you decide you're gonna take 20 weeks off, I gotta replace you. And when you, and now I can't hire you to be an independent contractor because they're changing all those rules. I have to provide way more benefits than what makes sense, and I have to cut benefits from my other employees to get money to pay for those things. That's not how we create an environment that trains people in the workforce. This is how we kill our workforce. These entry-level jobs are wildly important, but you know what? In my businesses, I can't hire a 16-year-old and trust them to run my store or run my property the way that they need. I need to hire someone that's reasonably priced that I can afford, and I can train them and give them the skills so that one day they can take on those higher responsibilities that get paid a lot more and come with benefits. And I think that's the way that it's worked forever in this country. I don't think that that's the way that our government should get in the way of and try to destroy. As far as affordable housing goes, government subsidies to help people buy homes only goes a long way to make homes more expensive. I do real estate. I see how it works. When the government offers a $20,000 down payment assistance, you know what happens to the prices of homes? They go up $40,000 because the buying pool just exploded. That's not how we lower the price of housing in Minnesota. And right now, the biggest problem to housing in Minnesota is a lack of the number of homes available. And we have way too many people looking at way too few homes, and a big solution to that is our America First plan to get rid of some of the extra undocumented migrants and undocumented illegals in this country and in this state. And as that happens, we're going to see a lot more affordable housing. And as somebody who rents out, I can tell you a large portion of the people who come to my door looking to live in my apartments do not have abilities to prove their citizenship. Thank you.
Can you repeat what we're trying to go over here?
Absolutely. Local businesses have often struggled to hire entry-level workers due to the lack of affordable housing in the area. What role, if any, does the state have to support development of affordable housing?
Well, affordable housing is dictated a lot by zoning and also what it is the community says is allowed in there. Average home sizes go up. We also don't allow for townhomes because we feel that they're gonna have that. There's a lot of, not in our backyard. So there has to be community-based discussion about what neighborhoods are brought in, what part of town. It isn't just subsidies, it isn't just changing that. It has to be a community deciding that we're having that. Now, as a worker and what we see, you don't want to drive more than an hour. It used to be more than half an hour, but most people are driving up to an hour to get to where there's affordable homes to do just any job. And many people are doing multiple jobs in order to get to afford rent, not just buy a home. The things that have already been done by the state is to create a floor for all of us to build upon. It isn't top-down solution in the sense of trying to create an overall experience that everybody gets to build upon. It's just like the state contract that we negotiate for over 10,000 workers across the state. It is the bare minimum so that everybody knows what they're getting into, so they can come to the community, they come to work and know what it is they're gonna get. It is not the fix-all, it is what allows everybody to do that. And again, it has to be a community approach, and government's only real job is to make that a safe place so the community can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. If you are elected, what would be your top 3 agenda items, why, and how would you measure your success at the end of your term?
Top 3 agenda items: tackling the cost of health insurance and our discussion on health care. We keep on talking about health insurance as if it's health care, but it's really just a bureaucracy that's blocking us from the health care we need. If I could change that discussion, I would treat that as a small win, and if we can make it so it stops beating inflation and how much more it costs, I'll treat that as a major win. My other one would be fully supporting public schools so they become the standard they used to be, and get it so that we're not having people competing over that, and we're having. And then, in reverse order, because it has to be taken care of first, is battling fraud and getting all that dealt with as fast as possible. Because if we're losing money, then we're not building anything, and we need to get that taken care of first. So getting the IOJ started and working with the House as much as possible to make it so we get that everything they need to do forward, instead of talking about politics, actually working shoulder to shoulder and getting it done. Thank you.
Yeah, so once again, when I talk to people at the doors, this is an easy answer. First and foremost, we're gonna take boys out of girls' sports and private spaces. We're gonna protect our daughters. I grew up in a society where it was understood that as a father, it's my job to protect my daughters. And I think that that's a society that we all grew up in. That's simple. That's number one. That's what we're gonna do. And there's a lot of support across the state to do that. Secondly, we're gonna remove school mandates. I'm hoping to get on K-12 finance. There are a ton of mandates on our public schools to do ridiculous things. Most recently, I just sat down for 3 hours with the superintendent of Buffalo Schools, and one of their biggest funding nightmares is unemployment over the summer for non-union members or non-union employees. That is really non-full-time employees. That's a really high expense for a school district. We're going to mandate that they pay for that. We're not going to give them funding for it, and then we're going to ask why our schools aren't fully funded. Well, because we throw these ridiculous mandates on them. We're going to strip that away and allow our independent school districts to act independently. It's not a ridiculous request. And fraud. Fraud is a big issue. And you know what? It's fair for me to stand up here and say, as a Republican, I don't have a lot of options. The administration does not want to listen about this fraud issue. And this was not first proposed in the Senate last year. It was actually first proposed by Jeremy Munson back in the day to tackle this issue, who's a Republican new House member. And when he brought it forward, the nonpartisan staff said, why are you making this? This is the job of the Attorney General. You're just trying to make a second Attorney General. And then here we are with a Democrat Attorney General who has no interest in tackling fraud. In fact, it seems like he might even be trying to help them when we look at our future. And so if I was a Democrat standing up here, my answer wouldn't be, we're going to pass an office for Attorney General. My answer would be, I'm going to fight back against my own party to pay attention to these things and deal with it, because they have the power to do it today without any legislation. They're just refusing to do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Had a special session been called to discuss guns and school safety, would you have supported a ban on assault rifles and high-capacity magazines?
That special session, by his own admission, was a political stunt. Tim Walz admitted to Fox 9 that he knew that they didn't have the votes on the Democrat side, but he wanted to put every Republican up there and make us all take a vote. And I'll tell you right now, exactly where I stand. Shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment exists. I own multiple guns, and I have no intention of giving them over to the government, nor does anybody else who is part of our movement. Now, that being said, what's the real issue with schools? It's terrifying as a father of young children to send my kids to a school and not know that they're safe. We need to provide funding. Guns are certainly not the problem in our schools. We need to provide funding for secure entrances. We need to provide funding for mental health services. When I talk to public school teachers and private school administrators, their number one concern is mental health funding. They're not even worried about having a guard or how to pay for somebody to sit at the front door. Their exact words to me, and we're very blunt, is I want to have the resources to help these students so that they don't feel the need to come back and commit violence. And that's a real concern, and it's not being supported at all. And we've been asking time and time again to increase funding for these things, to find it somewhere in our budget. And we can find tons of money to provide for a housing project, hundreds of millions of dollars to a housing project that was 95% plus fraud, but we can't find money to protect our kids in school. I think that's a real indictment of what the priorities are from the administration. Thank you.
Again, I'm Louis McNutt. I'm not the whole DFL. In fact, I don't believe the DFL is where it should be, because it is more Democrat than it is farmer or labor. That is another reason why I'm running. And this issue is one of those issues as well. For me, I would not be supporting anything that was stated for that. I would be for, if a school district wants to be able to have secure entrances, the state does need to find a way of helping out that rural school, or that any school that has state funding, if that's what it wants, that's what we need to do. Again, it's for the needs of what that school determines. We also, like I said the other night, we need to talk about the overall issue of what's going on. And the fact is, my union has advocated for mental health issues for as long as I have been a part of it. It is the shrinking of bed space, it's the shrinking of actual frontline workers in schools. We have more administrators than we do teachers, and that is almost across the board when it comes to everything, including DHS, including corrections, including everything that's supposed to be working. We have more bosses than we have frontline workers, and anything I could do to change that direction so we are enabling the people doing the work to be able to do that work is where I'd be. And again, I don't care about what people have for guns. What I care about is responsible ownership, responsible sales, and responsibility to your neighbor. That's where we gotta be. Thank you.
Thank you. Very simple question. How do you plan to decrease crime?
Accountability. We're having to, and we have to really change the rhetoric of a certain person that I am in the same party with. We need to have it so we're holding people accountable. When you allow petty crime to continue, you allow everything else to. It used to be a thing, a phrase they said in New York, it's a broken window syndrome. If you have broken windows, you entice more crime there. If you allow car theft, if you allow all that, saying it's just boys being boys, you're allowing all the other crime to go. We need to hold people accountable. We need to make sure we have that, and we need to also make sure there's space in the correction facilities. It's not a cheap thing, but it is a thing we need to do. And I believe that we need to make sure that we're holding people accountable. Thank you.
Crime's a massive problem in Minnesota. We're not taking it seriously, and that's terrifying to everybody who lives here. Because we all know that when you drive through Minneapolis, you don't feel safe, and you shouldn't feel safe. Average response time in Minneapolis, hours, days. That's insane. We have a situation where we're not supporting our officers, we're not funding our agencies, and the result of that is, of course, more crime. We need to provide that funding. We need to force Minneapolis to actually do their job and protect their citizens. We need to look at Wright County, once again, a beacon of values, and export that. We have one of the greatest sheriffs that has ever existed in this state. We have a corrections facility that 2 years ago had 0 turnover. There's not another corrections facility in the country, I bet, that had 0 turnover in staff. That is a supported system. We need to take that. We need to protect that man, and we need to ask him how to solve these problems in other places in the state. Now, we also need to increase mandatory minimums. Our judges aren't doing their jobs. They're not holding criminals accountable. That's terrifying. When we have county attorneys like Mary Moriarty who say that we're not gonna deal with any felony convictions from stops. If you pull somebody over for a broken taillight, and you find 5 pounds of meth in the back seat, we're not going to prosecute that. That's crazy. That's Looney Tunes. We need severe mandatory minimum increases, and we need real accountability. Once again, hopefully through a Republican Attorney General next year, to force county attorneys to prosecute crimes as they should. Thank you. And I really want to hit this. We really need to support our police officers. As we lose them to other states, we lose out on a serious part of our future. Thank you.
What will you do specifically to make healthcare more affordable?
Okay, once again, I do not believe that a top-down approach is the solution to any of this. The problem with healthcare really started to the severity that it is now with the Affordable Care Act. When President Obama decided that he was going to be our savior when it came to healthcare, he ended up dooming our families to far too expensive premiums, to far, far smaller or lower levels of care, and to outrageous deductibles. This is a serious problem. And the solution is not going to come from the halls of St. Paul. It just isn't. I don't want anybody in St. Paul to sit down and try to write a bill to mandate that insurance companies do something different that's just going to drive up their costs. We need to start peeling back regulations. Every time a bill is passed, insurance companies have to hire dozens of people to conform to these new regulations, and the end result is that all of our premiums go up, all of the services that we're offered go down, and you and I lose. So the solution to healthcare in America is deregulation, not more regulation. Thank you.
For me, like I said, it's one of my highest priorities. Insurance is running our healthcare, not you or me. You're definitely not the main driver. Insurance companies are negotiating costs, and they're closing you in on networks. You used to be able to know what the cost was before you showed up. Now you have to wait, and you might find out that the non-insured cost is going to be overall cheaper for you, but you have to ask for it. That is predatory, if I ever heard it. And there is legislation going out to have it so instead of an accountant peer reviewing your pre-approval, another doctor does it. So you don't have to have 3 attempts to get a thing your doctor says you absolutely need to do. This is something the insurance companies, by profit margin, if deregulated, wouldn't care. They're making money. They're some of the most profitable companies in this country. If we deregulate them out, they're going to maintain our sickness or anything else to extract the maximum amount of value out of us. It doesn't make sense. Your life should not be for profit. They're not going to do that by themselves. I don't know. I'm always open to more ideas, but as it is right now, I don't believe you should choose how much of you is worth how much they're going to charge for you. Saving your hand, saving your foot, whether or not you can live with cancer. Those are the decisions accountants make for you, and we should get them out of your doctor's office. Thank you.
If you must make a decision where the law, as affirmed by the courts, conflicts with your personal beliefs, what will you do? Obey the law or defy it? I think Lewis on that one.
As a senator, you would have to follow the law. So if it got to that point, I would have to absolutely notify everybody why this was happening and step down. Now that's a character thing of me. It's a democratic republic. If it's voted in and it's no longer a thing, until I absolutely had to follow the law, I'd do that. Now, that's just the question. If it completely bypasses everything I believe in, I'd let you know, and then I'd have to say somebody else has to do it. I have to adhere to but up until that point, you'd hear me fight for every fiber of my being, what's going on and what we need to do. And that is paramount, but character is, in the face of adversity, you stay true to yourself, and I have to do that, and I hope everybody else understands that. Thank you.
I feel passionately about this because lawfare is a serious problem in this country. I want to ask, and I'm not going to expect an answer, it's more rhetorical, but which court are we talking about? Are we talking about the Minnesota Supreme Court that's wildly partisan, just decided this week that boys should be allowed to compete against girls in contact sports? That's crazy. No, I would not obey that, not at all. If a court tells you something unjust, then it's unjust. The court can be wrong. And as a legislator, your job is to legislate, it's to create law, it's to solve the problems in the law. No, I will stand up to the face of the bully, even if it's wearing judicial robes, and point out what's wrong. This country was created on the idea that we are sacred beings, created, or endowed by our creators with inalienable rights. If those rights are trampled on, all bets are off, guys. I'm not listening to a judge because they say that their opinion or their conglomerate opinion is that my rights and your rights should be trampled on. As your senator, I'm going to stand up for your rights. And I'm going to make sure that even if the courts disagree, we're going to fight every single day to restore your rights to their fullest capabilities. Thank you.
Well, the gentleman that wrote this question said this, I guarantee you've never had this question before, and he's right. So we're gonna have a little different spin on this type of question. You only have enough money for 2 meals. A socialist, a Marxist, and a communist walk into the diner. Do you buy anyone a meal?
A socialist, a Marxist, and a communist.
Walk into the diner. Do you buy anyone a meal? And you only have enough money for 2 meals.
And there's essentially 4 of you, because you need to feed yourself.
Interesting.
Well, you don't have to.
You don't have to, but
Yeah,
you would
okay.
be the 4th.
Sounds like a bad sub for a joke. You only have enough money for 2 meals, huh?
That's what the question says.
Sounds good. I'm going to buy myself a meal. I'm going to hand it to the socialist and tell him to figure it out.
So, this gets into what I believe making sure everybody else is fed first. So again, socialist, Marxist, communist, that's a funny one. It is a bad joke, isn't it? Yeah, I would definitely make sure I feed as many as I can. So, socialist, communist, and then I guess the Marxists can figure it out. Thank you.
All right. %39 of LGBTQ plus young people seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, including 46% of transgender, non-binary young people. 12% attempted suicide. Being a teenager is hard enough for those ostracized as different. Does the state have a role in reducing the demonization of LGBTQ+.
You're good. Again, this gets into my thing that we need to make sure this is as much safe place as possible, especially in developing kids. Again, making a safe place is about respect and respecting the community and respecting the space they're in, not just the individual person, and definitely not the opinions. You have a difference of opinion, you have a difference of what might be what it is that you see, but the safe space is what the role of government is, because otherwise we would just be in anarchy. And we need to just, the government's place is make sure that there's a safe space for them to be where they want to, not where they want to be, where it's appropriate for everybody to be. And that does mean defining where it is that it can be safe. That's where I would work with what I could. Thank you.
This is a serious issue, and I know students, my own children, I feel deeply about it because I recognize that, well, let's start out with, there's no such thing as a transgender youth. It doesn't exist. You are born into a body, and that your gender and your sex are the same thing. Now, there is mental illness, and we should help those people. But transgenderism has been cited very reliably to be a bit of a social contagion, guys. Since it was first really introduced to our society, 2013, 12, somewhere around there, the number of students who identify as it have exploded. And our solution from government was, well, let's help them. Let's help them. Let's put them on puberty blockers to affirm their gender. What happens when students don't go on puberty blockers? They typically mature and recognize that that was a weird phase in their life. But when they do go on puberty blockers, you know what happens? Almost every time, they live a life believing that they're in the wrong body, and then they go on to attempt suicide or to have suicidal ideation. That's a real concern. We need to be compassionate and help these students. And when the students come to us and children come to us and say, I'm confused about my gender, we need to show them love, we need to show them support, but we need to speak truth to them. And we need to make sure that they understand the world that they live in and moor them in reality. Love and truth is the solution to this problem, not government regulation. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just making sure I read the handwriting correctly. Any discussion of abortion is also a discussion of women's rights. The two issues are linked. Does a woman have agency over her body, her health, and her family? Does the legislature, which you will both have criticized for making bad decisions, have the right to tell her what she can and cannot? Sorry.
Thank you.
This is a tough question, it's asked at every forum, and I think it's a fair question to ask. Last night, one of the answers that was given was that my opponent doesn't want to get between a doctor and a patient. And the reality is, there's one more person in that room, the baby. And that's a unique life that we need to respect. Now, the problem in Minnesota is that we have chosen to deny the existence of that baby. And when we do recognize it exists, we're okay killing it at any stage up into and past birth. In 2023, we watched the Born Alive protections in this state get repealed. And that's obscene. We have some of the worst laws in this state across the entire world. Almost nobody's as harsh as Minnesota. So we can have a conversation about at what point the majority of us agree that it's too far past. But I think we need to really get down to, once again, showing that mother that she's loved, that she's supported. That's why I financially support my pregnancy resource center, Cornerstone Options in in St. Michael, I ask you all to, because they support the mother from the moment she walks in the door up and through years after the child's been born, helping them get resources and opportunities. Again, I approach this from a point of faith. Every single person is valuable. And we need to recognize that as a society and begin to help mothers through this so that they don't feel the need to do it. And we need to stop it from happening at these latest, most extreme points. Most people agree that we can't be killing babies after they're born. Most people agree that a 32-week baby is the exact same value as a baby that's been born alive. That, you don't become less valuable because of your age. These are real individuals with unique DNA and unique existence, and I think that we need to support them. Thank you.
Again, sorry for coughing on. Now know to aim a different direction. Again, like I said before, it is a fundamental thing for me that we absolutely do not need to be in that room, and we don't need accountants, and we don't need bureaucrats in that room. When it comes to the protection and health of a mother or a woman that may be a mother to be, it's absolutely crucial that they have every option possible to save their life. And if we have bureaucrat and a written law that has trouble even defining what an assault rifle is, let alone what an automatic one, if we get into that where we're defining where exactly life starts, where life ends, giving the best option possible is by getting out of that room so the woman has the right to figure out what's best for her, and the doctor has the best capability to save the woman's life. Just get out of the room. That's where I'm at. Thank you.
I believe this is the last question we have. If elected, how much time will you spend on traditional legislative issues versus fighting culture war battles?
I guess I'll have to define on what you define as cultural battles, because as they come at us, it's not exactly a lot of option you get to have to stand your own ground and to say, I support making sure we have safe places and we don't have the heckling and we don't have the overabundance of shouting. So to maintain that space would take up whatever amount of effort it would be for me to make sure we have that going forward. After that, it would be 100% the rest of my time to make sure that we're changing up the legislation, we're changing up the laws so they make more sense for you and me, and they make sure we find where government can get out of the way and where government can build a good ground for all of us to stand upon. So I couldn't tell you the percentage because I don't know how much attack there would be going forward, but I would absolutely work to maintain a safe space for all of us, just like we have here, where we have respect for the decorum, and we need to continue going that forward. So, thank you.
Talk to any legislator. We have great legislators here in Senate District 29. They're going to tell you that the majority of what you do down there is not fighting partisan against partisan. It's a lot of it is bipartisan. That's why in this campaign I have prioritized getting out and speaking to community leaders, business leaders, individuals, finding out what their concerns are so we can elevate them to the level of the state legislature and take care of them. I'll continue to meet with our cities, with our school boards, and learn what those issues are. And I've already been given a whole dump truck full of them. So we're going to bring those to bear. There's a reason I went on a legislative tour, bonding tour, because I need to know what issues bipartisanly need to be affected here in Wright County and in Senate District 29 as a whole. Howard Lake has a serious water treatment issue. They need $36 million to solve that. They're on the docket now to get $15 million from the bonding project. We need to support that. That's going to be bipartisan. There was Democrats and Republicans in that room, and we all looked at it, we all toured it, we saw the degrading systems, and we agreed that this is something worthy of our time. Wright Technical Center, that's worthy of our time. So I absolutely will spend time on that. Now, don't get me wrong. The culture war issues, those matter. They're the reason our parents don't feel comfortable sending their kids to school. They're the reason our society has become so unmoored from reality. Those aren't something that we cast to the side and ignore. That's the reason that we have these deliberative bodies, is to determine what issues matter to our society. So there are no issues that are just culture wars that we should ignore. They're issues that come to the core of what our culture stands for. And our culture here in Senate District 29, if you ask me, it is pretty great. And again, we need to export it. And those values need to be brought to St. Paul and defended well. And that's what I intend to do as your senator. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will now move to concluding remarks. Each candidate may make concluding remarks up to 2 minutes. And Michael, you are first in the concluding remarks, followed by Lewis.
There's a long history of outstate Democrat candidates deciding to run as blue dog Democrats or as more moderates, right? We saw Heather Gustafson. We saw, we see up in the Iron Range. And the answers are always very similar to what we hear tonight. I disagree with the party as a whole. But then they get down there and they vote to repeal Born Alive. They vote to allow Nicole Mitchell, a cat burglar who was caught on the scene in a burglar costume, to continue to vote in our Senate. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't have the majority anymore. We see unanimous votes from DFL legislators who always will agree with the party when it comes time to do so. We have never seen a true blue dog for 15, 20 years here in Minnesota. The blue dogs have been neutered. They do not exist anymore. And I understand that my opponent believes that he is different. But so did Heather Gustafson. And she is right now advocating to take away your guns. So I don't want to disparage anybody, but I want you to recognize the reality of and the control that the DFL has on their legislators. Republicans, not the same way. In the Senate, every leadership has come to me and said, we want you to vote your district. You know what's important to Senate District 29. When you get down here, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I want you to represent the district, and that's exactly what Bruce did, and that's what I'm going to do for all of you. I look forward to meeting you all in the community. I look forward to continuing to be out there at the meetings and learning what's important to you at your doors and representing you well. I look forward to, again, talking to all of you tonight. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
So, we had to have a debate yesterday where we had a lot of different discussions. We had a lot of different things going on. But we had to have decorum brought back because, well, it was supposed to be not a debate, but here we are doing a debate at the end of the day. So, again, for me, I'm Labor before I'm a Democrat. I was an independent before that. I'm true to myself, and before I even ran, you can talk to anybody you want, I was promised and confirmed, and I hold people to what they promised, is I'm allowed to be my own person, and I'm able to vote my own way. That has already come up multiple times when we had the special session idea by a certain governor that I'm going to be straightforward. I am a state worker, and how many people actually like their boss? So, here we are, and before even talking to me much as a neighbor or anything like that, I'm told that I'm going to be just like another person. Well, here's a great opportunity. You have 1 year to give me a union probation period and figure out whether or not I can be different than anybody else. I am moderate in my core, but that does not mean I don't stand for anything. I stand for making it so we can afford our lives and making it so Minnesota is protected going forward, and we have electrical grid that actually can be affordable, we have utilities that are safe, and we have an infrastructure that actually supports the lives we want. That's who I am. So I appreciate if you give me the opportunity. It's just 1 year. It's not a big ask to give me the opportunity to prove that I'm asking a friend to do the right thing instead of demanding the other side to do something.